Ferrari has been a part of Formula One since the very beginning and have a long, rich history that extends beyond what you can buy at the dealership. But there's another Italian brand whose name holds similar weight: Maserati. Just kidding. Lamborghini. And although everybody knows that Ferrari and F1 have been in bed together for decades, not many people know of Lamborghini's story in F1. Why were teams like McLaren able to be so successful, but Lamborghini couldn't? McLaren, Lotus, Benneton. The Benneton family made clothes, not race cars, and they won championships. So how did Lamborghini of all brands fall short? First, we need to understand that Lamborghini's entry into Formula One was not as a team, but as an engine supplier. The company's involvement was spearheaded by Chrysler, which acquired Lamborghini in April of 1987 for a cool $25 million. This is the same year that Chrysler had to send out thousands of restitution checks for $500 apiece for an odometer scandal, which also cost the company around $25 million, but that's another video. Chrysler's leadership at the time believed that a presence in Formula One could elevate Lamborghini's brand image and showcase its engineering prowess on the world stage. That was and continues to be Ferrari's whole game, and it's worked out pretty well for them. In 1989, Lamborghini Engineering was established to develop an engine for Formula One. The project was ambitious, with Lamborghini setting its sights on creating an engine that could rival the dominant players of the era, including Honda, Renault, and Ferrari. Going into 1989, Formula One had just moved away from the 1,000 horsepower turbo monsters of the 80s. The turbo engines of the 1980s were unreliable and made so much power that it posed serious safety issues related to turbo lag, which caused unpredictable power surges, as well as a competitive imbalance caused by the high cost and complexity of the technology. F1 deciding to go back to a naturally aspirated formula would coincide with Lamborghini's first ever F1 engine, which would be dubbed the LE3512. It was a 600 horsepower naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V12, a configuration that promised high power but posed significant challenges in terms of weight, fuel consumption, and reliability. Lamborghini's first partnership was with the French Lotus team in the 1989 season. Lamborghini representatives stated at the engine's debut race, the 1989 Brazilian Grand Prix in Rio de Janeiro, that they chose a lower-ranked team to join Formula One as it felt that at the early stages of its development, the 3512 would not be able to do justice alongside one of the teams that usually run closer to the front of the grid. Also, that all the teams at the front of the grid already had existing engine suppliers. This is a little bit similar to the story of Life Racing, the team that was behind the worst Formula One car of all time. That car, the Life L190, would be built by a team that originally wanted to be an engine supplier for the top teams when they developed their crazy 3.5 liter W12. But when they couldn't secure those engine contracts, they decided that they would buy a struggling team to try and showcase how good their engine was. Spoiler: it didn't go well. But when Lamborghini finally got a running engine onto the Formula One grid, the initial results were promising, with both Lotus drivers managing to qualify consistently with the engine. And it sounded amazing. It was often being touted as the best sounding engine on the grid during this period. However, the performance was far from competitive when compared to the top teams. The 3512 was heavy and it was unreliable, often failing to finish races due to mechanical issues. Despite these reliability-related setbacks, the engine did show a lot of promise, and Lamborghini did manage to attract interest from some of the other teams. Starting in 1990, Lamborghini would begin supplying engines to Lotus, a historic team that had fallen on hard times.
Fortunes have been going downhill a little bit.
This partnership was a perfect opportunity for Lamborghini to showcase some of its capabilities on a larger stage. Unfortunately, Lotus was struggling with financial difficulties and an uncompetitive chassis, which compounded the challenges of developing a reliable engine. The collaboration produced a little success, and Lotus's results remained underwhelming, with the team only managing to score 3 points over the course of the 1990 season. Going into 1991, Lamborghini would supply engines to a different team, Ligier. Like Lotus, Ligier was in a period of decline, and the team's outdated chassis design would further hamper performance. Although Lamborghini's V12 had seen incremental improvements throughout these first couple of seasons, it was still plagued by reliability issues and was no match for the dominant engines of the time like the Renault, Honda, and Ferrari engines. The Ligier partnership would end after just one season. But 1991 was special for a different reason, because the 91 season marked Lamborghini's most ambitious project yet. They no longer wanted to just be an engine supplier, they wanted to be their own team, they wanted to build their own car. So in 1991, the Modena team was formed. The car that they would produce for this season, the Lambo 291, was designed by Mauro Figuri, a legendary engineer who had a long history of success at Ferrari during the 60s and the 70s. They had money, they had an engine that, even though it had its problems, was promising, and they had people on their team who knew what they were doing. Lamborghini was coming for Ferrari's crown, and there was nothing that anybody could do to stop it. The 291 was about to be dominant. Yeah. What? They didn't win? Okay, how many races did they win? 0? Shit. Okay, so despite its promising pedigree, the Lambo 291 faced numerous challenges. The car's chassis was underdeveloped, and it managed to record its best ever result at the first race it ever entered. After qualifying in 17th place, the car held together and would finish in 7th place, albeit this was 5 laps behind the winner Ayrton Senna in the Mclaren. And the Lamborghini V12 would remain a weak point due to its reliability and weight-related issues. Drivers Nicola Larini and Eric Van de Poel struggled to compete against the established teams. Van de Poel's near points finish at the 1991 San Marino Grand Prix was a rare highlight in an otherwise dismal season, and by the end of the year, financial constraints forced the team to shut down. The Lambo 291 would be the only Formula One car that Lamborghini would ever compete with that they made themselves. With the team shutting down after the 1991 season, they would go back to only supplying engines. Starting in 1992, Lamborghini would start supplying engines to Minardi, a small team known for punching above its weight. Although Minardi were able to extract some performance from the Lamborghini V12, the engine's fundamental flaws, again high weight and reliability, remained. By this point, Lamborghini had been trying to make a name for themselves in Formula One for 4 years, and the F1 program was starting to become a bit of a financial hole with little to show in terms of results. This was before Lamborghini was the Volkswagen-owned titan that it is today with infinite money. Also during this time, Chrysler, the owner of Lamborghini during this period, was facing its own challenges in the automotive industry. This is after 1991 was the worst year for domestic car sales in America in over a decade. But there is still one last hope for Lamborghini. One of the most intriguing chapters of Lamborghini's F1 story was the partnership that never was. After the 1992 season, Honda did what they always do and announced that they were leaving F1, which left the hugely successful McLaren team without an engine, and they were seeking alternatives. This would lead to McLaren developing the MP4-8B, a modified version of the MP4-8 that was designed to fit the longer and heavier Lamborghini V12 for testing. The car took McLaren around 3 months to develop, and when the Lamborghini-powered McLaren finally hit the track for testing, it showed a lot of potential. After Lamborghini made some adjustments to the power band at the request of Ayrton Senna, the engine was making around 700 horsepower. It was fast, the car handled well, and it was easy on its tires. It was doing so well during initial testing that it was reported that Ayrton Senna called Ron Dennis from the pit lane to let him know that he had to go with Lamborghini as opposed to the Ford engines for the 1993 season, which was the other option that they were considering. But despite both Senna and Mika Hakkinen praising the engine during testing, McLaren would end up choosing to go with Ford for the 1993 season, and ultimately decided to partner with Peugeot for the 1994 season onwards, a partnership that would have little success. The Lamborghini-powered McLaren showed so much potential in 1993 that Ian Wright himself would say that had the MP4-8 had the Lamborghini engine instead of the Ford, it would have had the pace to win the 1993 championship comfortably. McLaren's decision to go with Ford instead of Lamborghini for the engines for the 1993 season was a significant blow to the program and was really the final straw for Chrysler, as a partnership with a top team could have revitalized the entire program. So as luck would have it, after the 1993 season, they would pull the plug on the F1 program entirely. Chrysler would shift their focus back to their core business model of building road cars, leaving behind the dream of F1 glory. Lamborghini's failure in F1 can be attributed to a couple of factors. Lamborghini's at the time limited resources were being divided between its road car business and the F1 program. The company lacked the financial and technical depth to be able to compete against established engine manufacturers like Ford or Renault. The engine that Lamborghini built was powerful, but it was plagued by reliability issues and excess weight, and in a sport where marginal gains make a significant difference, these flaws were insurmountable, and Lamborghini often collaborated with struggling teams that lacked the infrastructure to develop competitive cars. This limited the potential of Lamborghini's engines and compounded the challenges of breaking into the upper echelons of F1. F1 is a very expensive business, and Lamborghini's parent company Chrysler was unwilling to invest the funds necessary to develop a top-tier engine program. The failed partnership with McLaren represents a significant missed opportunity that could have changed the entire trajectory of Lamborghini's F1 involvement. Who knows what could have happened had McLaren decided to run those Lamborghini engines instead of the Ford for the 1993 season. That was really the final nail in the coffin. Their brief stint in the sport is a reminder that even the most prestigious brands can falter in the face of F1's relentless demands, a story that we've seen time and time again with companies like Toyota. Success in Formula One requires more than ambition. There is no shortage of people with loads of ambition and no results to show for it. It demands unwavering commitment, technical excellence, and most of all, financial stability. For Lamborghini, the lessons learned from their F1 venture have continued to shape their identity as a brand, one that thrives on pushing the boundaries of performance and engineering excellence. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.